met Joyce James through the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. We were doing the Undoing Racism workshop and bringing a structural analysis of racism to the profession, because most professions, healthcare, whatever the profession is, we're there dealing with the symptoms of structural racism. But the People's Institute gave us an analysis that said the root cause of all these symptoms is a structure that's in place. So I met Joyce James, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, because of the excellent work that she was doing in Texas, dealing with the root cause of the pain and suffering, I guess, and the injustice that young Black children were facing in the Texas child welfare system. The work that she was doing at that time was staggering. I mean, it was like the first time that in my years of practice and understanding that somebody was actually using their position of power to hold the system accountable. And that was amazing. They passed legislation, they started the Center for the Elimination of Racial Disproportionality, a training center, and it went on and on and on. But the thing for me that was the most compelling about Joyce James is her story. When she explained that she too was a social worker for years and years and years, and she too was delivering services. And it wasn't until she developed the courage and the conviction through the Undoing Racism workshop, of course, and of all the work that she did to say that we have been enabling this system to remove children, to do harm in the name of doing good. This is true for all systems. It's not just Joyce James. She was the first to have the courage to say such a thing and to be a model of that. Once you can see something, you must say something. Well, then you don't just stop there and complain, but you then do something. And Joyce James is somebody for me that really shook my world because she was doing something. So I started to follow her. And I started to, she's in Texas, I'm in New York. It wasn't so easy, but just following her and reading everything and having her come to New York and talk to the child welfare system here. But she's talking about changing the system. And the systems don't want necessarily to turn the mirror inward, which is what she advocates for. They would like to continue to develop services and to prove that they are helping people to, I guess, improve their circumstances under the miserable circumstances that they find themselves. So she's certainly not the only person, but she is the person on my list of excellence, because really for me, Joyce James, in addition to being an anti-racist leader, an amazing trainer, an amazing human being, she is a human rights advocate. And very specifically, she's a human rights advocate for children. And even more specifically, Black children, children of color, their families and their communities. And through her trainings, it's just like amazing. You just know that Black children and children of color have had their human rights violations occurring to themselves, their families, and for generations since the minute they landed foot on this nation. And the United States is the only country that did not ratify the Convention on the Rights of the Child, saying that, oh, we already have those laws in place. Our children are protected. But you know something? Nobody ever looks at the history. Nobody looks at the accumulative damage that has been done. But Joyce James does do that in her groundwater training. She was the first person to say, no, this pain and suffering is coming up from the groundwater, and it feeds every system. And so you can't just look at one little system. You have to look at all of the systems that impact a community. And that's the brilliance, that she's, you talk about a child being born, and Joyce James will say the child has a human rights to a mother that can sustain childbirth, and look at the systems that impact the mother's health. The child has, the right to stay with family, and all the systems have depleted communities and decimated families, and the children have a right to stay with family and kin. And children have a right to, live in communities where the police are protecting and creating safety and not surveillance and interrogation. And children have a right to go to school and not be overly disciplined. She was the first person that said that. And she was the first person that I know of that worked with every one of these systems to say, you got to turn the mirror inward, and you have to look at intentionally or not intentionally, how this system is continuing to violate the human rights of the children that you say you serve. That is like staggering. And so, when she was in Texas, when she was, with the Department of Health and Human Services, and she had access to an entire cabinet, there was education, there was health, there was criminal justice, all of those systems. She had the opportunity to begin to train them to say, no, each one of you have to turn the mirror inward and look at how you are intentionally or unintentionally perpetuating systems that create unfair outcomes. And through the data collection and through her process to prove that, yes, systems can change, but you have to stay faithful to that change, because the minute you let up, they revert back. And if you understand the nature of systems, then you can make a difference in those systems. I shall say, push the walls, keep pushing the walls. I've done so many trainings with her that, I hope that I am an internalized white Joyce James, because I feel so proud to know her, to have learned from her. I've incorporated all of her education and teachings into who I am. And she says she respects me, and I'm honored by that. But really, the work that she does is stellar. And I don't see many others who collect that data and show that, no, you don't have to remove these Black children. You can find kin, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is the roadmap. And it's just amazing.